Now in the football world, greatness is qualified by goals, assists, trophies and individual accolades. But some players were so good they transcended tactics. Players like these had an ability to influence games like no other, leaving an indelible mark on football history. Andreas Iniesta is one of those players. He did not lead the top scoring charts, he never won a Ballon d'Or, yet if football was a language, Iniesta spoke it more fluently than almost anyone in existence. He was the kind of player who did not play for the spotlight. He played for the control of the game, his love for the sport, and the love and admiration of the people of his country and boyhood club. This is the story of the genius from Fuente Albiya, the man who delivered some of football's most unforgettable moments. This is the unreal legacy of Andreas Iniesta. Born in 1984 in the small village of Fuente Albiya in Spain, Iniesta's early life was defined by modesty. Football was a way of life where he grew up, and from the very beginning, it was clear Iniesta played the game differently. At the age of 12, he was scouted by Barcelona while playing for Albacete. It was a life-changing moment for Iniesta, but also a painful one because he had to leave his home and move to La Masia, which I'm sure most of you know famously as Barcelona's youth academy. It was rumored that during his early days at La Masia, he felt very lonely. He cried constantly in the early days, but regardless of how he felt, he stayed, and Barcelona definitely knew the player they had on their hands. By the time Iniesta made his senior debut in 2002, his technical ability was just incredible, man. Despite the fact that he was small in stature, his intelligence was unmatched. Iniesta's movement of the ball, his close control, and his almost godlike awareness of the football field were years above his age. And Pep Guardiola, nearing the end of his playing career, reportedly told Xavi after one training session with Iniesta that this boy is going to retire us both. And you see, Iniesta's rise at Barcelona was not immediate. In the early years, he was rotated in and out of the team. He wasn't a guaranteed starter, but every manager he played with understood his value, and so did his teammates. And Iniesta was the kind of player who didn't just play football to dazzle. He played it to elevate everyone around him. He was a footballer who just didn't play passes for the sake of it. He conducted the pace and tempo of the game. And even though he was never meant to be a goal scorer, he could unlock defenders with one touch. And he wasn't built physically to dominate players, but no one could take the ball off him. By 2008, Barcelona's midfield was ready to undergo a revolution. When Frank Rijkaard left, Pep Guardiola took over the team, and with that came the birth of the trio that would define an era of football that we may never see again. A midfield that consisted of Xavi, Iniesta and Sergio Busquets. And Iniesta, along with Xavi and Sergio Busquets, perfected the football tactic tiki-taka and even transformed it into a form of poetry. And I must say, you had to be alive to see these players play football. It was almost unfair to everyone else. And from 2008 to 2012, Andreas Iniesta operated at the absolute peak of football intelligence. In 2009, Barcelona completed an unprecedented sextuple, winning the La Liga, Copa del Rey, Champions League, Spanish Super Cup, UEFA Super Cup, and the Club World Cup. Just imagine that, all these trophies in just a single year. And Andreas Iniesta, along with Messi and Xavi, played the best teams in Europe off the pitch. And you see, Iniesta was never a player of stats, because in the 2008-2009 season, he scored just 5 goals for Barcelona. But if you watched the games, especially in the Champions League, Iniesta was everywhere, making interceptions, helping in transitions, making pre-assists, and controlling the tempo of the game. And I'm sure some of the older viewers can remember the semi-final against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. It was looking like Barcelona were about to lose the game. But on the 93rd minute, Messi slipped the ball towards the edge of the box, and Iniesta just ran in, one touch, one shot, one goal. And this goal sent Barcelona into the final of the Champions League. But to be fair, for those of you that remember, we all know the real hero of that game was the referee. And after winning the European Championship with Spain in 2010, Iniesta, along with the Spanish national team, were the best national team in the world. But until that point, they had not won the World Cup. And during the World Cup tournament, in every match, Iniesta played with composure, control, and his footballing IQ was unlike any midfielder at that time. And in the World Cup final against Netherlands, in extra time, the scores were still 0-0, and Iniesta found himself in the box, got his opportunity, and made Spain the champions of the world. And this was just one of his many memorable moments he gave to the football world. And you see, Iniesta's greatest years aligned with the most dominant years of both Messi and Ronaldo. From 2008 to 2017, those two traded Ballon d'Ors like clockwork. One year it was Messi, the next it was Ronaldo. And I say till this day that if Messi and Ronaldo did not exist, Iniesta would have had at least 10 Ballon d'Or trophies. And speaking of Ballon d'Or, check out this video up here where I talk about the best players who never won the Ballon d'Or. And still on the topic of Ballon d'Ors, in 2010, Iniesta finished second in the Ballon d'Or voting and third in 2012, but he was named in the FIFA 5 Pro World 11 for 9 years straight. Just imagine how crazy that is. For 9 years in a row, he was in the world best 11 consistently, which is absolutely insane. And in 2012 as well, he was voted as the best player in Europe. And in the 2014-2015 season, he continued to lead Barcelona to titles, winning the treble that year under Luis Enrique. And even though at this time his legs were slowed, his mind remained 20 steps ahead of everyone else. And this guy aged like the finest wine. He was rarely injured, he was always in sync, and his mind was always in the game. And in 2018, Iniesta played his final game for Barcelona, and the whole of Camp Nou cried for him. Not because he was a star who was leaving, but because he had become a part of the soul of the club. And shortly after leaving Barcelona, he signed for Vissel Kobe in Japan. And in 2024, at the age of 40, he decided to retire from football. And I must say, Iniesta was the type of player you cannot measure with goals, assists, or even individual trophies. His talent and quality was almost immeasurable. He was a textbook definition of an actual generational player. I know nowadays people have made the term a bit redundant, but Andreas Iniesta is the actual definition of a generational footballer. And now I want to hear what you guys think about Andreas Iniesta down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I mean, if you got this far, then you clearly do. So thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna see you lovely people in the next video. Peace.